Thanks for joining us today. Just to start with, tell us a little bit about the business here and what your role is in it.
So we're the Way Outback Brewing Company in Southbourne, and we are predominantly a brewery, clues in the name, I guess. My role is I am the director and one of the brewers here now, and the co-founder along with Nicolette, my other half.
So going back to the beginnings of all of this, what convinced you to set up and start in the first place?
So the Way Outback's now 5 years old. Originally we started in a shed in my garden in Kings Park, where we founded a very small 2.5 barrel brewery. After that we found the cool little space across the road, 144 Seabourne Road, and we converted that into our tap room and microbrewery. We've been there for 5 years, and we now have the venue at 1 Hosker Road, and also the venue that we're sitting in at 146 Seabourne Road.
So you've been going for 5 years now, and clearly it's transformed. Going back to that time when the pandemic hit and COVID came out of nowhere, well, what impact did it have on you and your business?
So I remember sitting in the bar. It was Friday, I think, when they announced that all the bars needed to close, and that was initially a massive rush of people running to the pub, as you could only expect from the British public. And then after that, I think fortunately we're a small company, so we were able to act very quickly and make some plans to kind of change the business. But up to that point, we'd basically sold our beer on draft for nearly 2.5, 3 years, and we were in our 3rd year of trading then. And we had no beer in small pack or cans or bottles or anything like that. And I remember sitting there. I picked up the phone to a small canning company, a mobile canning company, and immediately booked a slot with them to come and can everything that we had in the brewery and put it in small pack, so we could potentially start selling it online. And yeah, I guess because we were a small company, we were able to act very quickly and make that decision. And yeah, that's where we kind of directed the company for the next, turned out to be a couple of years, didn't it? So yeah.
So clearly as a small business, when all of that hit, you were able to adapt and change and, thrive. Our aim with the Bounce Back Challenge Fund was to enable businesses to think differently and come up with these projects. Tell us how you heard about the Bounce Back Challenge Fund to start with and what your thinking was.
So we heard about the grant, I think, on social media, potentially Twitter and possibly one of your posts. And then we obviously applied. And we had this space which we'd just sort of taken over. It was sort of towards the end of COVID, wasn't it? So we were starting to rebuild things. The pub had been open on and off with ever-changing set of rules imposed by the government. Table service, you are allowed to talk to the table next to you, you aren't allowed to talk to the table next to you. But we heard about the grant and we had this space that we'd just taken on. And obviously funds were a little bit low at that point. We'd kind of put everything we had into supporting our staff and trying to pay them 100% of their wage for most of, or if not all of the of the pandemic. And yeah, we very much, we are a small company. We are as strong as our team really. So we tried to look after our team as much as we possibly could. But yeah, we heard about the grant and we had this space and we thought, wicked, let's write a brief, let's see what we can do, and let's see if we could get some funding towards creating another space for.
So specifically about the project, tell me a little bit more about it and the journey that you've been on as part of this project.
So this is the barrel room. It's adjacent to our tap room on Seabourne Road. And the idea was that we'd create a space that initially we wanted to sort of host pop-up food companies in the small kitchen that we've built here, allow people to have the space to do any sort of events. We do record fairs here. We've had inquiries about doing pottery fairs, all sorts of things really. And we're still very much open to the idea that this space can be almost used for anything. So some beer and food pairing evenings, the possibilities are essentially endless. And it's a great space. We're pretty much booked up, I think, for private parties on Saturdays now for the sort of foreseeable future. We're trying to use it and allow the general public to come in as much as possible.
So clearly we're here today and you're going from success to success. Where do you think that your business would be if that grant wasn't available and you weren't able to launch a project?
Well, definitely wouldn't have created this space, for sure. We'd probably still be building it, I would have thought, and very slowly. We've organically grown our business over the 5 years. So we haven't taken on loans and things like that, which was very beneficial when we obviously COVID hit. But yeah, we wouldn't be in the position we are. We definitely wouldn't have this space for sure. But I mean, it is nice that we have got this space, and it's created a lot of job opportunities within the community. And yeah.
So your business now has lots of different elements to it. Do you think that's given you more resilience as we look to potentially tricky times ahead?
Yeah, I think, like I say, when we first started, or COVID first hit, we were very much had all of our kind of like eggs in one basket, and we were predominantly focused on draft beer, selling it in our tap room. We've now got, obviously, we've got an event space. We've got 2 mobile vans as well, which we go out and we do events and weddings and things like that. And we've got our beer in small pack, and we're now looking to kind of spread the love, so to speak, and push our beer further afield. And I think without, obviously, the grant and without those things, we wouldn't have that. It kind of forced our hand, I think, a lot to kind of change and rewrite the business plan probably about 6 times in 2 years, which was, interesting and fun and very stressful at times. But, I think we're in a strong place now.
So final question from me. Tell me, what has it been like to work with the council, and what advice would you give other businesses that were trying to do similar stuff and set up like you have?
We've found it amazing working with the council. So we dealt with Charles, and he obviously let us know what was available. I think originally we sort of saw there was X amount of grants at so much value, and we were like, "Ooh, wouldn't it be nice if we got this and got that?" But yeah, I'd advise anybody really. So get in touch with your council, see what grants are available. Starting a business as well. I mean, it's very hard when you start a business, so you kind of look and you think there's no grants available, and to a certain degree there isn't. You kind of got to get it off the ground running. I think a lot of people like to see you kind of take the first step yourself, and that is the hardest bit in starting any business. But I think once you are up and running, even with a few months behind you, 6 months behind you, there's a lot of things available out there for you to apply for. And my advice is, get on the internet and start searching, really. So and watch the space. And like I say, we saw either a Twitter or a feed that the council had put up, and then obviously filled in the necessary paperwork and applied, and it's been great.